Bonjour tout le monde, hello everybody, and welcome back to Mouthfools. I am joined today with my amazing, what's they call the guy with the sword that stabs in France?
Friends.
Musketeers, my amazing musketeers.
Oh, samurai, Zelda,
murderer.
There might be something, crossover with Samurai Link. That would actually be kind of cool. But I am joined with Failboat today. How you doing, Fail?
Doing pretty good. I mean, incredible back pain still from my travel back from PAX, but otherwise, emotionally killing it.
That doesn't sound very good to me. But I believe you. We have Fyrus with us today. How you doing, Fyrus?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm in tremendous back pain from my travel back from Edinburgh, but otherwise, emotionally, I forgot what you said. Damn it.
Killing it.
I'm killing it. That's it.
Yes, you are.
And we have Jaymoji. How's your back pain doing, Jaymoji?
Hey, how am I doing? I'm in tremendous no back pain. My back feels excellent. But I'm feeling awfully and terribly emotionally. So let's get this episode of Mouthfuls kicked off, huh?
All right.
Let's do it.
But before we begin with our back pain, don't forget to press that subscribe button down there. You can press it 3 times or 1. Any number that is not a pair, because if it's a pair, you're gonna unsubscribe, and we don't want that. But
if it's red, click it. If it's not, leave it alone.
Don't touch it. Yeah. Go give that a nice back massage. Step on it. Do whatever you gotta do to the subscribe button to make it gray, please. Thank you.
All right. But what we're gonna talk about today, and actually I have a question for you guys, because it's kind of flew under the radar, and I wanted to know if you've heard of it. But there's a new indie studio that has kind of that big game announced. It's kind of a crossover of an MMO with similar stuff with Breath of the Wild. Let me know if you've heard of the name. It's indie. I can't remember. Oh yeah, right. It's Indie's Nuts.
He's doing on his own.
I'm here all night, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to tip your waitress. I hate myself too.
You think you're funny, Gab?
Very funny.
Paid for that.
Look, if you're gonna subscribe for anything,
I
subscribe
don't get paid enough for fucking whatever that was.
That was. You said to us before we started. I'm opening up my final hosting part with the worst intro I've ever done. Was he lying? Was he lying?
You can either go big or go very, very bad. And I chose bad, because I'm more comfortable in it.
I'm just gonna say, I'm glad this is the last episode you're hosting.
Well, I thought it was a natural,
You have to give him credit where it's due. We definitely didn't see it coming. That's for sure.
Dude, I thought he was gonna say MiHoYo or something, like the Genshin Impact people, and then
No. I had a terrifying gut feeling that he was going for some bit. I just didn't know what it was.
That's
I had a premonition of a terrible joke incoming. I just wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah,
it was brewing.
That's payback for the goodness, Fyrus.
You know what?
With enough curse stuff, I actually want to talk about indie game developers, and I'm genuinely curious, are you guys big fan of indie games? And, Failboat, I kind of know your answer, but for Fyrus and Jay, I don't know. What is your favorite indie game that you've ever played?
Among Us, no. Actually, well.
Oh, and I'm the problem now.
Well, okay.
You're allowed to like the game.
Among Us is my favorite indie game for reasons that are not necessarily the game. I met so many people that are now I talk to every day and I hang out with. I met some of them in Scotland when I went. I met those guys through Among Us, of all things. It's kind of ridiculous. It sounds funny to say out loud because, the meme culture around it. But for one reason or another, it still has a soft spot in my heart because of how many new people I've met, how many friendships, how many just incredible memories that game spawned even outside of the game. But in terms of actual favorite indie game, I really like Hat in Time. Me and Jay did like a really fucking really fucking special playthrough of Hat in Time co-op on our old decrepit Let's Play channel. That was very special. That was very early on in my YouTube journey as well. That was like 4 years ago.
At least.
We did it like through Parsec, and it wasn't the best, but people really liked it. It was my first time seeing like, you know, like people just really enjoy something that we were doing together, and that was like really cool to me. The game itself was really, really fun. It was like people call it the Odyssey before Odyssey. And yeah, A Hat in Time doesn't even feel like an indie game, if I gotta be real. It does. It has like AAA energy to it. And I know Dan has like way more to say about A Hat in Time than I do, but it definitely feels like it was made by Nintendo almost. It's so well polished. It's got like it feels like it was released for like the GameCube or something, because it's a love letter to GameCube platformers. I also like really like Celeste. There's Celeste and there's one other. Hollow Knight, Celeste and Hollow Knight, and I don't know why. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand, even though they're not really super related. It's just like it's the 2D side-scrolling, like super expansive games. I know Celeste has like incredible movement. The speedruns of the game look like Celeste speedruns are some of the most fun speedruns to watch, because there's so much like precise inputs required, and you can do some really cool tech. The game has an incredibly emotional story. I remember playing it in Canada, and like Jay and Dan were watching me, and there was one particular stage that I remember playing it for the first time, and I was left actually speechless after. I was like,
oh yeah,
that hit like really hard. Oh my god. That was it was like genuinely emotional.
Was it the feather stage? I'm kind of curious.
The gondola.
Yes, it was the
I was gonna say the gondola.
It was the one. It was the visual representation of anxiety, and I was like,
It hits way too close to home. I wasn't that stage. I'm like,
right, and then the feather going up and down, and you're like,
yep.
I was like,
dude, I remember the feeling of like, oh my god, Hayden's about to like do the thing. He's about to get to that part of the game. I was so excited for it.
Yeah, I remember you just like watching me feverishly while I was like. Oh god. Oh my god, this is tingles. I got tingles. But yeah, that and Hollow Knight I haven't actually completed, but so I can't really talk to its credit too much, but what I've played, it's phenomenal. Like I like the setting, the art style, the just the format in general. I need to fully play it, especially before Silksong eventually releases. So
eventually.
But Dan, I know you have so much probably to say about that one little indie game I mentioned, so
I'll talk about Hat in Time, but I also wanted to say a little bit to like why you feel Celeste and Hollow Knight are so almost similar. I think you said I think it's strictly because those are two of the most beautifully immersive atmospheric games I've ever played. They have a low skill floor because it's a 2D platformer, so you just gotta wrap your head around some simple controls. And then they have like a really high ceiling of mastery. Like we mentioned in the speedrun episode, but like the tasks of Celeste is the tool-assisted speedrun of Celeste is insane if what you could do with like frame perfect inputs in that game. But no, I replayed a little bit of Celeste recently. And it's one of those games that you can just be walking through one of the hallways and you'll notice, like, you'll bump into, like, a lantern. The lantern is just a background element. It doesn't impede your progress or anything. But it, like, moves the lantern and the light source shifts a little bit. And you'll, like, see, like, little just atmospheric particles bumping about. And I'm like, damn, this game is beautiful. This game just capitalizes on what it wants to do so perfectly. And I feel the exact same way with Hollow Knight. It's one of those, and also for the same record, Cuphead. It's one of those games
yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it just breathes the passion put into it. It feels like a game that everyone on the team had like a dream ambition in mind, and it actually came to fruition. One of those rare cases of like perfection to what they wanted. I guess I can't speak on that. I've never listened to any interviews, But it feels like it really feels like a massive.
You can feel when a project like that is like a love letter and like a passion project, like through the quality of the game. Like, especially if it's an indie game, because indie games are made out of love for the most part, because they don't have like the AAA budget. They don't have like the backing that all these AAA games have. They have to make a game and put it out there and just kind of pray that it's gonna do okay, because it's word of mouth, it's YouTube videos, they have a harder time finding an audience. So for the most part, they have to be passion projects, and they usually, obviously, they can be reflected in the quality of said indie game. So
yeah, because that's the thing. We talk about indie games that we love and huge success, but how many failed indie game is there out there to the few ones that we know and love and we keep playing to? I'm really curious what's the ratio of how many people try to live their dream, their passion project, and it sadly fails miserably, while we see Celeste, we see Cuphead, who Cuphead is even getting... Actually, no, it already has its freaking...
The DLC, yeah.
No, not the DLC, the TV show.
Oh, the TV show, yeah, you're right. The Netflix show, yeah.
You know you freaking made it when your indie game has a Netflix TV show now.
Oh, 100%. That is such an interesting point to touch on, because I do wonder how many diamonds in the rough there are with indie games, because Dan and Nogla actually, very recently, did a video recording of a game called, I think it's called Nightfall, and it's a co-op battle royale. So there's two people on a team, and you have a horse, but it has Mario Kart controls. It can drift. The horse can drift, and it can and it gets sparks off of it, and it can boost. It's a Mario Kart battle royale on horses, and it's ridiculous. So
I'm all here for it.
Yeah, the goal is to get to the rows at the end. You're all on a different track, and then there's towns where the tracks kind of intersect, and that's where you can find weapons. That's where you can run into other players, and you can't be outside of a town during nightfall because it gets too cold and you end up dying. So you have to be in a town at night, and which is there's forced combat there, and it's such a cool game. I was just in the call while they were recording. I was muted just watching them, and I was like, wow, this game looks so fucking goofy, but so much fun.
A way to visually think about how the game works from a gameplay perspective to further illustrate is like a bracket, like a traditional bracket, March Madness, competitive fight, whatever, where it's two roads lead into one block.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a passageway between those two starting spawn points, which funnel into one town.
They converge into one town, yeah.
And so when it's nighttime, you take damage outside of the town, so it does force that interaction. And to further it, if you are really good at the Mario Kart horse drifting, you are getting to that town first, you get the loot first, and you get the drop on whoever's coming in second. It's such a simple gameplay loop, but it's so well executed.
Oh, that's so freaking cool.
It's such a cool idea, right? It's $5 on Steam, and I wouldn't say that it's exactly it's definitely a diamond in the rough, because I don't think many people have talked about it and many people are playing it. I know some people are, but it's made by the people that made Totally Accurate.
Tabs.
Tabs, yeah.
Totally Accurate Battle Simulator.
It's made by that's it, Battle Simulator. It's made by the same people that made that. So there is some previous success. I want to check out his other work. But that's just one recently that I witnessed, and I was like, wow, imagine if this had a decent audience base and there was updates and stuff. This game would be sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was just my little tangent.
No. That's perfectly fine.
And I'll add to that a little with the game really is a diamond in the rough. But at the same time, it is accurately priced. That is a $5 game that I will not spend more time than I would spend on any other $5 game.
Yeah, exactly. It's well priced for what it is.
If that were $15, I'd be like, that's not worth it. But at $5, it's I'm paying for this fun little endless experience. But if they were to add more updates, like you were saying, and more things to do outside of this one kind of repetitive battle royale style, absolutely this game would be one of my favorite indies. But that said, it really, I think going back to the of diamonds in the rough indies, I feel a lot of indies I run into share that idea of this would be amazing on a full scale with like full production and full budget, but it's great as the experience that it is. Like, I'm not sure if I'm putting it the best. You know what I mean by that? Like, it's not a full expansive thing, but it's like a genius concept for a game that is executed up to a certain level.
Like playing in their limits, if I think what you're saying. Like, you have something very good, but you know that it's not like gonna be an 80-hour game. It's just a
it would need more expansiveness. Yeah.
You're not trying to take like 2 plastic cubes and like, oh yeah, we're gonna make a house out of this. No, it's 2 plastic cubes. They're great as plastic cubes, so keep them like that. But actually, I'm curious because we have had a silent guardian right now, Jaymoji, watching us and listening. But my man, what is your favorite indie game? Do you have one? Or are you not that big of an indie fan?
Well, I'll get this real quick because I know Fi has a point.
Oh, no. The only thing I was going to say was we haven't heard from you two what your favorite indie games are. That's all.
Oh, yeah. For me, I think it would just be Besiege. Have you guys ever played Besiege?
Oh, a long time ago. Yes.
Name rings a bell.
So it's a relatively old game back in like 2012, back in like the Goat Simulator era of games.
Oh, good lord, that threw me back already.
Was Besiege 2012? No, you're right. It has to be. It literally has to. I'm like
2012, 2013, something like that. It was old.
Oh god.
But it was like one of the first indie games I ever played, and basically the whole gimmick of it is that it's almost like building Legos but with medieval parts and medieval like wooden planks and whatever else, and then like spike traps or like bombs that you can build, a catapult that will like launch. You can tack wheels onto everything. You can build things that fly. And it's so like sandbox that it immediately attracted me because people would build cars out of it. People would build these giant like Trojan horses. They'd build flying machines, and it's the same thing like you said about Celeste. Like, it's so open that it's and Hollow Knight, right? Anybody can get in and build like a basic thing with 4 wheels and charge and destroy a castle or whatever that you have to do, or pillage a village, right? But then there's such a high ceiling of like people have built like entire zeppelins that move, and like flying snakes and dragons that like breathe actual fire and all this other stuff.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of the game is it's like a mission-based system, right? It's like, destroy this house. So it could be the simplest, but it also has no ceiling. So
you could just literally do whatever you want. So the main like story of it is that you have to destroy a castle and like kill all of the little mini guys that are in like little Lego figures almost. I just say Lego because it's like, it looks like it's a small, buildable, fun bunch of. It's like, it brings your imagination of like if you built a castle out of Legos and then built something to destroy it. That's what it is as a video game being simulated. It just emulates that same feeling. So I used to spend hours and hours and hours on that game. And then my other favorite game that I play to this day is BeamNG Drive, which is...
BeamNG Drive, yeah. I used to see you on that all the time.
I play that all... I still do play it frequently. It's essentially a realistic driving game, but it's based around crashing the cars and having it be extremely realistic. So if you drive a car straight into a tree, you'll see like how it would crash, perfectly simulated in real time. Like the hood will bend, the engine will break, you know, you'll get leaks of certain things. Like it's so down to the BeamNG Drive, BeamNG Drive.
Oh,
or it's beam.ng. But there's tons of mods out there. You can put any car that you want into the game, and you could just drive it and race it around, and it's like realistic feeling. And I love that game. I have like 150 hours in that game, something along the lines of that.
There was a YouTube group I used to watch called Two Awesome Gamers. Oh my god, wonderful little channel. They were known for their Minecraft Skyblock, but they played BeamNG Drive 8 years ago. And I remember seeing, and all the cars were like crashing super realistically. Is that game like still updated properly to this day?
Oh, the community is extremely,
I gotta see where that's gone.
It's gotten so much more realistic. Like the amount of detail they put into like first off, the maps are massive. It's one of the most underrated like environment generated games ever because the maps are huge and there's like 20 of them you can play as or play in. And then all the cars, like they're getting more realistic with the engine sounds, the sounds of shifting, the damage is becoming more realistic. It's just like, it's amazing what they're doing with this game. You can, and I found out about it through, I want to say Spears the Amazing. I don't know if he's really making videos nowadays. I haven't seen his channel in a long time, but I found it through him. And then I saw Jacksepticeye used to play that game all the time. And I think that's where his like whole speed is key, like gimmick came from.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But I used to watch people play that game all the time. And then I finally got a PC that allowed me to play it. And I would play that game every day. I still sometimes will just go and play that game and drive cars around and crash them into nothing just because, you know, can't do that in real life. So it's fun to have that. But yeah.
Does it have VR? Out of morbid curiosity.
Oh.
I don't know if it does. It might. It might actually, because you can do like a first person in the cockpit of the car, which is like how I like to play the game. I have, dude. I bought the steering wheel and the pedals for you to play and control the game with, and it's just it's so much fun. It's so much fun like that. But it as an indie game, I often forget that it's an indie game because it's just become so big and there's such a big community that surrounds it. And I think that's the biggest plus of indie games is that unlike most AAA titles, the community to developer connection is a lot stronger than it would be with anything else, which allows so much of like, if the community was like, we want this car in the game, they'll be like, all right. And then they put it in, no questions asked, you know?
Oh yeah, it's really a much more symbiotic relationship between creators and indie game developers. Because I remember when we played Me and Boat, it's Overcooked 2. And at the very start of Overcooked, there's that little screen that says, if you're like a content creator, we 100% give you the right to publish this, make video, stream it, you know, just have fun. And it's such a simple thing, but I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, I will do stuff about your game.
Yeah,
I will.
Permission to have fun. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's the little nuance that really makes that it's like you're part of the team, you know? Come on in, have some fun, and let's just do that thing.
Yeah.
And to do a bit of a thumbs on what you just said, Jay, where sometimes the line between indie gets more and more blurred these days, because there's some... I remember in the early days when we thought indie games, you thought, oh, you know, 8-bit of a old genre games, very limited and something that people like, but it's more niche. And nowadays, when you think of indie games, it's like Five Nights at Freddy's, Among Us, Stardew Valley. They're pretty much their own giant monoliths of game that... even if you don't know that they're indies, sometimes you're like, well, that's just, you know, another contender for the game of the year and stuff like that. So it's much more subtle than it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, and you know, they a lot of times these indie games get so big that they get picked up by bigger platforms like Nintendo, where Cuphead, I think Cuphead is now on Switch, right?
Yeah, it is on Switch.
Yeah, so Cuphead, Celeste, all these other games, they get recognized as a big enough quality that they can be sold up there with physical games and whatever else with the AAA titles, and they become, but while still being developed by smaller companies that, you know, are tight-knit with their communities. It really is like you're cheering for someone and you see them make it in the big leagues and you're like, yeah, I was part of that game. I was part of their Kickstarter and now they're on Switch and now they're getting, you know, millions of copies sold. It feels good to be kind of a part of that.
Yeah, rooting for the underdog. There's always like, you know, you can do it, little puppy. Go give them hell.
Exactly.
But speaking of games on the Switch, actually, indie games, I think my favorite indie game, because I'm a huge fan of Metroidvanias, is Bloodstain Ritual of the Night. Which is funny, because Bloodstain is actually from the original creator of Castlevania, which I can't remember his name, sadly, and I would probably butcher it. But he actually decided to forget Konami, because Konami was treating him like garbage, and he just made his own company, and pretty much made a, you know, bootleg Castlevania, which is Bloodstain, but people were like, well, this is the true Castlevania, you know, successor now, so people just jumped in, and it's incredibly fun if you like Castlevania and Metroidvania games. Oh. I have small gremlin looking at
Small
me
new Castlevania fan.
no, can't play that game. It's a bit too violent for his age, you know? Let's give him a few more
just a
months
little
before.
bit.
Yeah.
No.
All right, I release you, son. Bye-bye.
I release you, son. Be free, young creature.
Oh my god. I was here before I talk about because I want to talk about Hayden, you mentioned Hat in Time. I want to bring up Hat in Time. And I also want to bring up Stanley Parable. Hayden, do you want to say something before? Because Jay mentioned something and did you have
your
finger up for a sec?
I did have my finger up, but then it kind of moved on and I was like,
yeah,
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, nah, that's all good.
Okay. Yeah. Hat in Time, Stanley Parable. Both games that I loved a lot. I've talked ad nauseum about A Hat in Time on a lot of occasions. I think it's what it is straight up one of my favorite indie games, if in a major part due to the amazing mod support it has. But I want to talk about Stanley Parable a little bit today because I had never played it before, and the Ultra Deluxe version came about, and I was like, man, I think now is the time I want to play it. And I was playing it on stream, and it is straight up one of the coolest game experiences I've played in like a long time. It turns so many things on its head. All the new content plays around itself so well in a way that feels supernatural and fits in with the core game. I don't want to spoil any of it because there is actually some stuff in there that I know is better if you experience it.
I remember watching playthroughs of it back in the day. Like most of like the big YouTubers covered it, and that's how I found out. I think Markiplier did a playthrough of Stanley Parable, and that's where I figured it out. That's where I found out about the game through. So,
when I was playing it, a bunch of chat was giving me, as they do, they backseat and they're like, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know." But occasionally I would do something. And one thing about the game, the new version of it, because the original release is like 2012, 2013, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's very old.
Yeah. They've added, to my understanding, over 3 times the amount of endings in the game.
Oh my god.
I think there were 10 endings before.
There was a bunch. There was a bunch.
It was 10 before, and now it's like 30 or 40 or something.
Wow.
That could be misinformation. I'm just going by what chat said, but like, it's an insanely bumped up number. And occasionally I would do something that the chat said, and I'm like, guys, does this go on forever? Or like, and they're like, oh yeah, it goes on forever. But I'm like, I'll wait a little bit more. And then it changed. And the chat was like, what's happening? And then I was like, I was right to experiment.
The game's very meta like that. Like it questions your line of thinking a lot. It really does. Like it makes you not trust it at all because you want to just go against what it's telling you to do. It's one of the first games that did that.
Yeah.
And it never follows any rule. So it's like when, the moment that you think that it's like, okay, this leads to this leads to that, you could be playing an entirely different version of the game that looks like you started at the very beginning and everything seems right, but then there's like one door that wasn't there before, and then you're like, oh, this is an entirely different game now.
So good.
There's like another game that I'm just a slight tangent, but there's another game that's kind of in a similar vein, and it's a game called There Is No Game. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
I've heard of this. I've never played it, but I've seen like the title screen.
It's like the idea behind it, the concept is there is no game, so you're doing things that there's a narrator and you're doing everything against his wishes, and you're doing things that shouldn't be done, and like there's lore to it, and there's a story, and you go deeper and deeper. Like he's like, there is no game, you can turn this off now. It's fine. There's no game. Seriously, I don't know what you're still doing here. Like you can go about your day now. And then there's like a little screw icon or something in the corner or something. And then you can click it, and it like starts undoing it, and then the sign falls down, and he's like, "Oh, what did you do? I told you there's no game here." It like Stanley Parable has that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, this kind of anti-game, like, no, I want to do this. Break the narrative style.
It's like a weird, like, not psychological, but it's like an experiment almost of like, we're not going to tell you what to do, but we're going to kind of hint at you just not doing the norm to what a game is.
Yeah, a lot of fourth wall breaking that opens up to like, oh, you shouldn't be seeing this, but now that you're here, check this out, you know?
Dude, actually, Stanley Parable kind of puts it best in one of its own narratives, where it is a story of the player versus the narrator. Both, or more even literally, the difference between the player's will and the game's will. And it's like, for a functioning experience, you need both. You need the player's willingness to play and the game's willingness to provide. And games that test that dynamic, like what's it called again? There is no game. There is no game, Stanley's Parable. Stuff that does that in like a very meta way, and you know, the ones that like close the game, but they leave a file on your computer for you to double click, and like there's some
Doki Doki Literature Club.
Doki Doki one shot, if you guys ever played that, messes around with it a little bit. Stuff like that question the dynamic between player and narrator, gameplay experience, whatever it is. Those are the coolest little experiences. And especially seeing it in such a prime example with you know, Stanley Parable really has always, like, it's an experience. It's such a fun experience as, you know, a seasoned gamer to have things that you expect to happen tested in different ways.
Like, you mentioned, like, the file thing, the folders and stuff. One of the weirdest things that, like, until I kind of was more in the know as to how the game did it, to me, was when the game knows your name somehow. Like, it'll just be like, welcome, Hayden. I'm like, wow, now what the fuck is going on here? And I'm like, how are you doing that? That's weird. I think Doki Doki Literature Club was the first experience of that, when Monica was just like, hello, Hayden. It's just us now. And I'm like,
doesn't she also call you out for streaming?
It's like reading your like username from your computer, but like at the time I was like, how in the fuck? And like AAA games don't do that shit. AAA games just don't do that shit.
Dude, doesn't she also call you out for streaming if she sees like OBS is open?
If there's like OBS open, or there's like a secure, like if there's like a like some kind of screen recording capture software going, she's like, oh, I guess we're not alone. I guess you're sharing this with someone, huh? And then she's like, hi there. And she like makes like a very meta joke about like, you know, viewers and stuff. It's so bizarre, and that's kind of like what I really like about indie games in general. Just, they don't have to be safe as such. AAA companies have so much on the line when they make a game, because they have to sell it to so many people, because the budget is like $1 billion trillion. Whereas an indie company can have a modest budget of like, say, I don't know, indie budgets, but
$7 or $8.
$7 or $8, but they have like a modest budget, but like a passion-filled team, and they can do like these insane, like really quirky ideas that you would never find in a AAA title, because they have that freedom. They don't have the pressure of course they want to find an audience, but also they're like, well, we have to try and push this idea ourselves. Let's not make generic platformer number 3. Let's do something with emotional twists and turns and really cool movement. Or let's do like a 3D platformer that's an homage to like GameCube titles. Let's make a horror game about animatronics that's jump scares. Whoa, you know, they can do really whatever they want, and that's why indie games in general are super fascinating. Because, you know, that you see the coolest concepts and the coolest ideas there.
Sometimes it's also born in a similar way. It's born from things that are, to echo it, a little bit riskier in concept. So, like, I mean, what was the game that was based around the really funny idea of birds skateboarding? Completely based around Skatebird, yeah. To my understanding, the whole idea is because Tony Hawk. You know, and so they made an entire game about birds on skateboards. Wait. Did that not land?
I thought you said Tony Hawk. I was like, oh, he's a skateboarder. Then I was like, Tony Hawk, like the hawk, like a bird.
I played the game for a couple hours on stream, and it hadn't even clicked with me that Skateburb is actually a pun on Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And you're like skating around like little, like
dude,
under the bed of somebody's room and stuff like that.
You know that idea came from someone in the shower, like, Tony Hawk, Skateburb, and they just left the shower, and immediately started.
To mind, the game came later. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like a video idea where we're just like, oh, and I can do this and this. Time to make the whole thing.
Tony Hawk, but it's a real hawk.
Yeah, exactly. You know it's. I haven't played it myself, but you know that's in the game.
Like, oh, absolutely,
absolutely.
Like just the idea that, like, of course you couldn't do that if that were AAA. Sega unleashes Tony Burb. Or Burb board, whatever it's called. Like Skateburb. Like Burb board. Look, if Sega released that has to go through all the suits. You have to go through like a board meeting.
The investors and stuff.
Yeah. Could you imagine walking into the board meeting and just like tapping some paper down?
Skateburb.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're going to put a robin on a plank of wood. This is going to sell 3 million copies in the first day.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
But you play as the Hawk.
Exactly. And everyone claps.
Fantastic.
In the perfect
game
world.
To sell 1 trillion copies. Right
there. In the perfect world, that's how it works. But yeah, indies don't have to deal with that as much. I suppose I shouldn't speak on what indies have to deal with. But to my understanding, it's a lot more on that end of they can put out something that they think it just works on its own, and then it
they have
gets
a lot more freedom with the execution with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Less suits breathing down necks until later in the development process, to my understanding.
The indies don't have that quota to achieve like with the game, and they're like, yeah, you gotta make that amount of money or else you're never existing again. Because I think it was Dead Space who was like a very special niche kind of game of horror in space, and it was super good. But when they got bought by
EA, I believe it was EA, yeah.
And EA was like, yeah, you gotta make an action game and it's gotta make that much money, and it failed.
Wait, was it an indie game? Dead Space initially?
I don't think it was indie, but it was a smaller studio.
Gotcha. Kind of like It Takes Two, which was indie, but like it was like distributed by EA, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Dude, I should have gotten a picture. I saw 2 cosplayers for It Takes Two. Two people playing as May.
That's so cute.
I instantly thought about us. I was like, I gotta take a picture and show it to Fyrus. He would love this. But I like didn't get a chance to take a picture with them. But I was just, it was so exciting because when we played that game, it was such an excellent experience. It's like one of my favorite games, and deservingly got Game of the Year, I guess, right?
For sure.
But seeing someone cosplay as that is just like, oh my god! Like it is a
the
real,
it had.
It's out there and a real thing that people at PAX East are dressing up as. I counted there were 14 Jinx cosplays from League of Legends, right?
16.
Was it 16?
You
it
got
was something
16.
really ludicrously high. But I saw 2 Mays and I was like, what? Like, look at that. That's somebody actually went through the effort of dressing up like really accurately with like the yarn hair and everything. I was like, what? That's amazing.
I think I want to change my answer for my favorite indie game of all time. It has to be It Takes Two.
It's such a good game.
Okay, A Hat in Time, the playthrough for that was A Hat in Time is up there as well because that playthrough has a very special place in my heart as well.
Yeah,
but It Takes Two, like when we streamed that, dude, that game, I'm so happy it got like the recognition it deserved, and people, and like there was a Game of the Year award because that's a big like honor for an indie game to get.
Yeah,
but. Dude, It Takes Two was it's such a phenomenal experience. It's a co-op platformer where every stage has its own unique gimmick, and and all of the gimmicks are really fleshed out and really fun. Like there's one stage where one character can like reverse time, but it's only one character can do that, and the other character can, I don't know what they can do, but there's like, because how it works is one person plays as the dude with like the plant on his head, and the other person plays as the woman with blue hair, and each of the characters throughout each stage has a different gimmick that works off of each other. So everyone's like playthrough is different. Like Jay was playing as the leaf guy, so he would have a different ability to me, And that's just such a fucking cool idea, because usually with games like that, you'd see like both of you just have the same power and you just go through the level. But instead, like, he has to go his different path. We have to help each other go through. It's like asymmetrical, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
You got something?
It's not a power game, but it's like you have to break out of jail or something like that.
Yeah, it's made by the same people.
Is it?
A
Way Out.
That's the one.
It's made by the same people.
Yeah, I've seen A Way Out playthroughs, which is a wild. If it's called asymmetrical game.
Where like where it's not like the same thing on both screens. One person doing something that affects the other player. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it takes two really.
That was like their beta, like well, not beta, but them testing like the theory of like what they can do. So they just expand
upon that idea, dude.
No. Well, it's not, but it's the first time they tried doing that kind of thing.
That format.
But it's made by them though, yeah.
Same team.
That's insane. Okay, that immediately puts my interest, like, because I've never seen anything on It Takes Two. I know you guys have played it, but I've also been like saving my eyes for when I eventually play it myself, and if it builds off of that kind of idea,
it's
or at
that
least
format, but it's exactly that format. But like they get like really whimsical and magical with it, because it's like, you know, your little like yarn dolls, and they can do like crazy things. So it's not like so rooted in reality like A Way Out is. So
interesting.
The abilities are really cool. There's like a lot of different there's a lot of different like locations and stuff. It's I could gush about It Takes Two.
Yeah.
Forever. It's so sick. I know you had something to say about it as well just then, Jay.
Well, it really is. I think the most amazing part about it is like when you were saying about the gameplay being asymmetrical, it really is dependent on the title. It stays so true to what the name of the game is. The name of the game follows the gimmick. It does take two. You can't, you know, maybe in a game where two of you have the same ability, one of you can open a door with that ability and the other person just follows. But like with It Takes Two, it's like there is a door, one person has to open part of the door with their ability, the other person can only do it with their part. Like it really depends on both of you doing equal parts of something to make one thing happen. And my personal favorite part about the game is the fact that the gimmick is that you're shrunk down to these little dolls, and you go around a house. So like the first boss is like a vacuum cleaner, right? That you have to fight. But there's a reason that you're fighting the vacuum, because like the two of you are like a married couple that are like contemplating doing a divorce. So then they argue like, oh, that was the vacuum cleaner that you never used that I threw away. And now it's like trying to fight them, and they bond over these experiences. Then they go into their daughter's room, and it's like the whole floor becomes pinballs and like wooden structures, and you're going into this like little cardboard castle that she built, and you're fighting off the knights, and you're like sailing through the moat. All this stuff, it brings
that's
imagination to real life.
That's the place where I made a One Piece joke. I made like 3 of them, and you were like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I remember that specifically, because you were like, dude, I don't know what you're saying, and I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm out of the loop on that stuff. But I don't know One Piece, but I do know It Takes Two. I'm at least familiar with one of the franchises,
and it does take two.
It does take two, rather than One Piece. It takes two. See what I did there? See what the thing? 2 piece.
I hate how you tied that together.
Like I hate a lot of things about it.
I'm going slightly off indies for a sec, but you guys remember Portal 2 in that co-op? Oh my god, that co-op
that was the first thing we did on a Now Dead Let's Play channel.
Oh my god, was Portal 2 the start of that?
It was the first playthrough that we did.
Jay reached out to me and was like, yo, let's do a thing on LPD. And I was like, okay, what do you have in mind? And I remember my heart was beating. I was like, why does he want to do this with me? Why am I special? What have I done to deserve this? And he was like, yeah, let's play Portal 2. I think that'd be fun. I was like, okay.
And it was fun.
It was great. It was that tin can clip is like one of my favorite things still.
Yeah. Yeah, I had no immediate point on it. Just thinking back to Portal 2 and being like, man, that was so much fun. That was like just going through puzzles and like, you have to do this, I have to do that. We have to help each other.
Like an indie game almost. It's not, but it feels like it.
Well, the first one was made by some college students and then picked up by Steam.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense.
Yep. First one was, if I'm not citing that wrong, yeah, it was a college-based thing or something made for college, and then they were like, wait a second, we got something good here, and then they furthered it into the full experience, and then yeah, it was picked up by Valve. Yeah. That's to my knowledge. Wild. Yeah.
I guess it feels that way because it is so charismatic and so niche feeling and like so on the nose with some of its jokes and some of its humor that it feels like an indie game because it has that like, yeah, fuck it, you're playing a game about shooting portals. The fuck you know about it? It's fun. Play it. It's got indie vibes.
It's that snark.
That levity, like, we don't care, just do what you want, you know?
Yeah.
I still think the line with the lemons is the one that Cave Johnson, you know? Gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
With the lemons.
I feel like it would be almost a disservice if we didn't touch on it at all during this episode, but Five Nights at Freddy's.
Gotta talk about that.
That was like the first, like, huge, exponentially massive, like, indie game that I'd heard of. Because I saw the people playing it on YouTube, but then, like, it just skyrocketed in popularity. Like, Markiplier's Five Nights at Freddy's episode part 1 has like 100 million views.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that's a testament to how it's like it's a game that he made in like a week, I think, in his room when he like
really?
in his room. Yeah, the first Five Nights at Freddy's when he was just trying to like maybe a bit longer than a week, but I remember it was like he was trying to like he was between paychecks trying to support his family, and he decided to make Five Nights at Freddy's, and he was just like, okay, cool. I remember there was an interview where he said, "Oh, there's a lot of clicks for this right now. I'm gonna enjoy this while I can." And now it's like 10 years later, and there's like a movie being made of it and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, there's toys in it, and like almost
it's in like
every
development
store.
hell, but there is a movie in the works. But there's like merchandise. There's like Funko Pops. There's like novels and stuff. There's like plushies. I've got a Five Nights at Freddy's plush in the other room, and there's just like it exploded so much more out of the scope than like any other indie game I'd heard of at the time, and even still to this day, I guess Among Us is the only one I can really think of. But it's crazy that was like such a small, like, drop in the water horror indie game about animatronics, clearly based on like Chuck E. Cheese or something, and it just it spawned such a big active community. There's Security Breach, which admittedly wasn't great, but like that had so much more budget to it.
Was that the second?
No, Security Breach was the most recent one, the 3D one.
Yeah.
But I think another thing that helped catapult it to success as much as it has is the lore, the story behind it. Yeah. Because it's kind of convoluted, it's kind of unnecessarily complicated, and there's so many fucking layers to it. And the game theory videos really like fucking blew up because of like the lore that's kind of told to you through very cryptic notes in the gameplay. Like, we'll go into it maybe in another episode.
I would love to know more about it.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that an indie game is still relevant today, and I think a lot of its success is to do with the story that's not directly told to you. Do you get what I mean? Isn't that like super interesting? Like, it's not like the story represented in the game. It's something that isn't directly even presented to the player. It's just like theories and like fan theories and like communities coming together being like, so did you see that thing on night 1 that like glinted on the screen for one single frame at around 4:30 in the morning? Yeah, I think that's like the key to the whole puzzle. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I think the reason, and I think you touched on this briefly, like the reason that the game and the franchise is as successful as it is not necessarily because of the gameplay. Because like, yeah, the gameplay is fun. The atmosphere is fantastic. The idea of a horror game where you're not running from the horror, but you're stopping the horror from getting to you.
Yeah,
and stopping the jump scare. Like, it's entirely unique and interesting gimmick. But I think you're right that the main reason that the game is as explosively popular as it was and picked up on that was because of how much of a puzzle it is. And it's such an intriguing puzzle that the only way you can solve it is by playing the next game. I honestly believe that 60% of the Five Nights at Freddy's fan, maybe 70% of the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base, or people who are even interested in the game remotely, have never played one. And I'm one of those 70%. I've never played a FNAF game. I probably never will. But I used to watch.
You've watched people play it
all the time. Because I don't give a shit about like the, I don't give a shit about the like, okay, you can get jump scared. Like, yeah, that's cool. I want to see what happens when Markiplier gets to night 5. What gets revealed to us? And then, you know, his comment sections are going to be filled with paragraph novels about fan theories and all this other stuff about, oh, I think this and this and that. I don't know any other game that has some type of investment in that. Like the whole meme of like, is that the bite of 87? Like, it's a meme now, but back then that was the biggest deal when that happened.
It was like,
holy
huge.
shit.
That's why he reacted like that.
Yeah, it was teased in game 1 and revealed in like game 4, and we were like, holy shit, we waited years to understand
the bite
this.
of 87 was revealed in an offhanded comment in FNAF 1, and it was just shown in like, I think FNAF 4, I think
it was
the
4. One with the
the
nightmares, yeah.
And I'm just, and at that time we were like, holy shit.
Yeah, and it's told in such a cryptid, like you're playing these retro games, so it's like uneasy, and it's like, like imagining the kids possess whatever. And obviously, I won't go deep into FNAF lore.
It makes you just feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just uneasy, but it's like you're solving a puzzle that you don't want to solve, but at the same time, you're like, I gotta solve it. I gotta see what's going on. And I don't know any other game that, or series that gets you that invested into it, into the lore specifically.
It's that like breadcrumb way of introducing the lore, you know? You only get a few points here and there, and you're the one who's got to do the work. So
but it's enough to satiate that taste.
Yes, instead of like just have it in your face exposition, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, there's lore. You do what you want with it. Could be just, you know, a false hope or stuff like that, but who knows? Like,
it's there, but like, you just have to like dig a little bit for it.
Yeah. It's like a television show, like a long-running television show of like, oh, did you see the latest episode? Did you see that? Like, you end a season, the end of a season is the end of a FNAF game. And you have to wait until the next season. It's like, who's gonna die? What character's gonna be next? Which of the animatronics will be in the next game? What does it mean about the last season? Oh, everything we know is a lie. Like, you're along for the ride, and it's something that everybody could be along for the ride in, which is maybe why Markiplier's series gets so many views on it, right? It's more of a visual story to watch even than to play. Not to discredit the gameplay, but
of course, I feel you.
I just think like indie developers tackling that is something that really like gets a game where it is. Is something that just you can get people invested in, and there's like, oh, there's more than meets the eye. You know, it kind of sets the game apart from all the other like indie games of just, hey, we have a gimmick where you shoot something and then you blow it up, and then that's the gimmick. We sell 1 billion copies. You know, it's more interesting when it's something you can get invested in and try to piece together with 1 million other people in a community where nobody knows the answer.
And I just want another tangent for just a little while, because I think we have to talk about this game at least a little bit. But Ultimate Chicken Horse.
That's bread and butter to like getting us together in the first place.
And hating each other a little bit more every time. You know?
the creative glue in us fucking despising each other to this day.
Which, again, with what Failboat said, I think earlier on, is such a simple game. You know, it's move, jump, and jump from the wall. That's about it. But it's every time you add that little extra something that makes it different every time.
It's like multiplayer Mario Maker, except you're building the level.
Yeah, that's how Dan pitched it to me, and I was like, hell yeah, we should do it. We should totally do this. And then we played it, and then we had every week we would play a little bit of Ultimate Chicken Horse of just trying to screw each other over with these different things, and it never got boring. It was always something unique and fun we could turn out of it. It's still being played to this day. When we were at PAX, there was like a little tournament in the PC free play area of people playing Ultimate Chicken Horse, and I was like, dude, it's still alive and well. Like, who would have guessed?
That's awesome.
There are Ultimate Chicken Horse tournaments. I gotta try one, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Gab wiped the floor with us in that game as the chicken. So you know.
Oh my God, the memories all coming back.
Yeah. It's not often that it seems to be the pattern with us, right? Is the indie games that we mark as our favorite are the ones that give us the best memories, and not just that they're memorable as games. Like for me and Hayden, it's A Hat in Time. It's It Takes Two. It's stuff like that. For all of us, really, it's Ultimate Chicken Horse. For me, it's BeamNG Drive, because I think of trying to play the game co-op with my friends and them crashing into bridges and shit like that. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's the memories we get from it that make it resonate stronger than just good gameplay.
Human Fall Flat.
Oh,
it's just another one that came to mind when you brought up games that like we all like played together like that.
Did a lot of indie games now that I think about it, but that especially, whew, boy,
what a game! It's like
I never laughed so hard we played that,
because I'd played Gang Beasts before that, but this was like a platformer kind of based around it, and I was like, wow. I remember I would like go off on my own little journeys, and I would like Spider-Man up the walls while you were trying to figure out how to actually do the level, and you were like, Fyrus, no, Fyrus, stop, we're trying to do the level, get down, we want to play it normally, and I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna fucking climb away, and you see me vault over the wall. Do you remember that one specific stream where I got stuck for like 15 minutes and you all had to band together to try and save me from that from that like situation? I think you even called the stream VOD like Saving Private Fyrus or something.
I believe
it. And like I was like fucking glitching out into a legend. I was like, guys, I need help. And you're like, all right, everyone, shift focus. We need to save Fyrus. Yeah. And like you were all like tag teaming, trying to pull me out. Beautiful memory.
That first stream of Human Fall Flat was, I think, God damn it, that first episode of Human Fall Flat. I'm on minefields here.
You missed the L.
Yeah. I just can't be associated with L, so I immediately release it from the sentence. That first stream of Human Fall Flat, I think at the time was the hardest I'd ever laughed like on camera. Just us grabbing each other and like Hayden and I like leaping together off of the map and like holding each other and parachuting the whole way down. I remember it was so funny. And it solidified like, man, these diamonds, like I never would have played that game had we not been like, hey, let's play this. Same thing with Ultimate Chicken Horse. Same thing with It Takes Two. Like it really takes it just like, hey, let's try this out. And then that's when the best experiences come out of.
Do you guys remember you could grab the floor and then you could like thrust your character up as if you were like howling, and we would all do that constantly. Gab was playing as the dog, so we just grabbed the floor and go,
oh my god,
it was just so goofy.
There's so much to laugh about when we played that. It just was endless, like fucking with each other and having fun. Oh man.
Speaking of games like that, I think the full version of Totally Reliable Delivery Service or whatever it's called has actually like been released like a while back. We should definitely try do something with that sometime.
That was the other game that my lungs were hurting from playing that game, because you could drive and we could just like run each other over, fly an airplane and just blows up when it lands.
Dan would be like on the wing and he'd be like, Fyrus, I'm not holding on. Fyrus, please. And then he's like dangling off while the plane is like going at like a vertical level.
It's just one of those games that has those shenanigans. Like Gab and I were doing something and then we heard you guys, and then we just look up in the sky and there's this plane flying down, and then it just explodes and you guys go flying everywhere. It's just, man, you can't beat that. Well.
There was also like that thing that looked like a merry-go-round where we could make each other spin and just catapult.
Dude. We should play that. We should play that soon.
God, that was so funny, dude. Oh man.
My goodness.
Good times. Good indie games.
Good indie games. Good indie game times.
Nothing but good times from indie games.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also wanted to say, I think Fyrus mentioned budget.
Yes.
And I'm actually really happy that indie developers have been gaining more and more like capabilities to actually be financed by people online. So the shoestring budget of the indie developer is pretty much inexistent anymore, you know? Because I see so many one thing I like to do is actually go, on Kickstarter
Kickstarter,
and look
yeah.
for the upcoming indie games and see like, oh, is there something that looks up to my palette, up to what I like? And there's always like, oh, if you like this game and this game, here's an indie game for it.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that more and more indie games have this opportunity to actually get in the fray and show what they've got with money, because
with
you
money,
gotta
of course. Like with the advent of Kickstarter and like Patreon and YouTube and like, being able to like individuals having the ability to just like promote themselves to a very like sustainable audience, like YouTube with the algorithm, and then being able to like promote a Kickstarter through that. It's been very good for that kind of, that sphere of game creators, game developers, because of course before they had to like develop out of their pocket, but now they can reach out to like a wider mass and hopefully get the attention of people on the internet. And then there's like stuff like not Nintendo, but there are companies that are also like, they actually have indie game divisions almost, kind of like like bigger companies will like invest in smaller teams and be like, okay, we like what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, but we're gonna give you money to make it better. And
bigger guy backing of their projects.
Yeah, precisely, and it's really cool to see stuff like that. I think EA might have helped a little when it came to It Takes Two. I know they handled maybe the publishing, which is in itself is already like a lot of money that they don't have to pay. So
yeah, it's a vital part of it too.
Exactly. And it like just to echo what Gab said, it is really cool to see indie games and indie teams have more capabilities to try and do the games they want to make instead of being limited by their financial situation.
Yeah.
Like you saw the
Kickstarter
You saw the Kickstarter for Five Nights of Friday Night Funkin'.
That's
the one. That gained like over, like, I think he gained like $2 million or something.
Wow.
And it's like a Flash game. It has a lot of charm. It's a love letter to Newgrounds, but that was something that you could have probably seen on Newgrounds, and the fact that it got so much support, that's so fucking cool to see, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's
of course deserved. It deserved everything it got, but it just blew my mind that that's possible now.
Yeah, and you wouldn't see something like that happen 10 years ago.
Exactly.
It's such an open market nowadays that people are like, yeah, I want to support this. That you can donate $1 and get a copy of the game, and then if 1 million people do that, it's $1 million raised, right? Like that's
Precisely.
huge.
that's
absolutely
fantastic.
huge.
And I think with indie games, what's really amazing is that they can always like fill in the genre gap of games online, like you always see like AAA games always go for like the big like FPS or what's the flavor of the month, Battle Royale and all that. And I think one of the biggest success of like being, hey, people want that kind of game is Undertale, where people were begging for a Earthbound sequel or something like that, and Undertale just came in with.
How have we not talked about Undertale yet?
I had to bring it,
There's so many
I'm surprised we haven't spoke about it yet. My goodness.
It was such a huge success story, and people were like, the game's really not what we're used to seeing when it came out. I think it was like big. Was it around early Fortnite that
it came out 2014, Undertale, I think, which is Fortnite was 2017.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but still, it was fantastic, and it was such a huge success that Toby Fox just decided, Deltarune's gonna be free because it was just such a huge success that he didn't need it anymore. It was just, it works. Have fun.
Wild.
2015, but Undertale was like the perfect mixture of a bunch of things. It had the story that wasn't, it had like that Five Nights at Freddy's effect where the story wasn't directly told to you. There was more exposition, there was more exposition like told to you through the game, like, through the characters talking, but there was so much theory crafting. There was so much left to the imagination, story that was told behind what is presented to you, which had the fans going crazy theorizing. The composition, the music, fucking iconic. It's beautiful. Toby Fox is one incredibly talented individual because he wrote, directed, and he pretty much did everything in Undertale himself, apart from I think Tem helped him with a couple of things like graphics and stuff, but all of the music in Undertale is just beautiful, and he's such a smart guy, because overall in Undertale there's probably about 5 like unique tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably only about 4 or 5 unique tracks. But then he reuses them and uses motifs from those 5 tracks in the entire soundtrack in ways that, like, as a musician as well, like myself, I'm just like, wow, that's such a unique and interesting way to use the motif from, like, Memories or the motif from Undertale or something. Like, there's a song called And Nobody Came. And and if you speed it up by like 1,000%, it becomes Flowey's theme. The song that's like,
whoa.
But like, and when Nobody Came, it's just like a really like dramatic and kind of unsettling droning sound that plays when you do the genocide route, and then there's just a black screen. But he just does so many like cool little things with the music that you wouldn't really get until you look into it. And I'm like, dude, that's so fucking cool. I have so much respect for Toby Fox.
Yeah, that's fantastic. To do it all on his own blows my mind.
Right?
Undertale also being a game like Stanley Parable, and there is no game that breaks them, the convention of gaming, and knows that there will be viewers and know that you're loading your game, and the characters realize that, mostly Sans. But what I remembered that was a part where I felt like looking for cameras around me is I never did the genocide route. So I looked it online, because I was curious. I was like, what happens? What are the bosses and all that? And at the point you have a discussion, I think, with Flowey, which says, like, he talks how like he's trying to break the cycle and all that. And he says there's probably people too scared to do it watching us right now, you coward. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Those games, they're too smart. Yep. They know when someone's recording.
Yep. It's breaking my mind so far. But you gotta love it. And I think we're gonna have to slowly but surely close this podcast, because as much as we could talk about all these fantastic games, we sadly have to end it soon. But before we do, I'd like to know, what is your most anticipated game of an indie developer?
Silk Song. Silk Song.
Yeah, that's a very good.
I hear a lot of people talk about that.
Also,
oh man, I got 3.
Gears for Breakfast are working on something. They haven't said what it is, but like they're working on something.
I now have 2.
Did they say it's not a Hat in Time?
They've confirmed it's not Hat in Time.
Okay, so they are working on something that they haven't revealed any information of as of yet, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely the new project from Gears for Breakfast, absolutely. And then my 2, I'll say back to back, are Dungeons of Aether and and also Cult of the Lambs. Which Cult of the Lambs is like a Binding of Isaac like roguelike game made by or produced by Devolver.
Okay.
And I saw it at PAX and I'm like, oh, this was not on my radar. It is like now on my radar. Like, I had the time in the media hour, like a limited finite time in like the best hour of the con, where I just watched the game for like 15 minutes. I was like, wow, I am like sold on this. So yeah, Dungeons of Aether, the expansion to the Rivals of Aether universe, and Cult of the Lambs, I'm super anticipating.
That was the one they had on the big screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's my answer.
Dungeons of Aether is like the Zelda-like game, right? No. Wait! No, go on.
Okay. It is like a JRPG kind of inspired game based around original characters within the Rivals of Aether's within the Rivals of Aether universe.
What is the? I have another answer. What is the?
Get that dust off your hands.
What is the Zelda game? The Zelda-like game that
Cadence of Hyrule.
Breath of the Wild.
No. That Yacht Club is making.
Oh, the mouse one. The mouse.
Yeah. What is, I need to look this up.
Well,
I need to look this up real quick.
It's a mix like Castlevania and Legend of Zelda, right?
Yeah. It's called
Rat World.
Mina the Hollower.
That's right.
Mina the Hollower. I'm looking forward to that. That looks really cool as well.
Well, what I'm actually hoping for is I've seen a game that's called Crowsworn, and it's like a mix of Hollow Knight and Bloodborne, and it looks fantastic. It's pretty much Hollow Knight with guns, and you're a plague doctor, and it just looks so good. I want to play that game. If a developer from this game is watching our podcast, please contact me. I want to stream your game anytime. And what about you, Jay?
I honestly, I'm so comfortable with the indie games that I play now that I don't have anything in particular that I'm anticipating. I did like some of that one Devolver game that Dan and I got to look at. It did, it did really scratch that itch of like, it looked really cool. The characters were really cute. The art style was very nice. And the whole gimmick of it about going around in dungeons. I love dungeon crawler games like that where you're fighting random enemies and stuff. I think that's awesome. So I guess I am looking forward to that when it comes out, but not too many other things. I guess I'm not as in the loop as what is out there. But maybe somebody in the comments can educate me on perhaps some new games that are coming out that maybe I should look forward to, or maybe all of us should maybe take a look at, potentially, if there's some that we haven't even mentioned in this episode. I'm sure there are.
Let us know in the comments what you're looking forward to.
Oh, what indie game. Haha.
Yeah. And hopefully you're looking forward to the next episode of Mouthfools.
Are we indie developers? Is there a Mouthful game that I haven't heard of?
We are independent creators. We just don't make video games.
Oh,
Indie videoers.
A Mouthful game where it's like, you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in time.
I'm sold.
But instead of the turtles, is the Mouthfuls.
I'm out.
Or like Mouthful game, but it's like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the side-scrolling beat-em-up game.
That's exactly the kind of game I was talking about.
But my idea sounds cooler, Gab. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's yours, but he said it, so give him.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
It's your idea, but I said it louder, so.
Yeah.
And there was Scott Pilgrim, so extra points.
There you go, because he's a gamer.
I think we should have a Sonic Heroes type game where we all have unique abilities.
So which one is being left out then? Because there's only 3 in Sonic Heroes.
I'll be the bad guy.
Okay, you know.
Oh well.
Yeah, I'm bald. I can be the Eggman equivalent. You know?
Okay, there you go. Gab is the Eggman. We are the Sonic Heroes. Okay, that's fine.
I love it. Our elemental powers come together to form a big subscribe button. If you click it, the world is saved. So save the world, please, viewers watching this video.
That's our team attack move.
Yeah. And thank you all for 20,000 subscribers.
Wow. The big 2-0.
I didn't even realize. I saw we were at 19K.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huge.
Couple more subscribers and we'll be billionaires.
Yeah, get us to
help us out.
Yeah, get us to like 100K so we can get a play button. So I can beat you all over the head with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Rip it in half.
Just get him a weapon real quick. While we're
Just give me a weapon. I've already said I'm gonna beat my mod up with my play button when I get it. Shout outs to Amy.
With that being said, stay in school, drink milk, don't do drugs, people, and we'll see you in the next episode. Oh, bye-bye.
Alrighty. Goodbye.
I think Capcom does a great job when they're adding like collaboration characters.
I've never been able to extend this way.
Oh god, I gotta get the helmet on. Oh god.
Wait a minute, our guy's a bad guy the whole time.
I just think it's crazy that I'm better at video games now than when I was like 16.
That is how you fix all the problems with all these games.
I feel like toy distribution is so different than it used to be.
They resculpted over the chest. They gave him a flak jacket over it.
I laugh when I see Among Us, but I'm not having fun inside. It's a reflex.
No, you took my joke!